Just heard about the revenge porn and gun control laws. Joining us this morning is attorney and legal analyst Vic Bajaj. He's going to help us break down the new laws and how they're going to impact us. Good morning to you. Thank you for
Good
being
morning.
here.
Good morning. My pleasure.
So we're looking at like more than 900 new laws for Californians. Which one do you think is going to have the most impact in our state?
I believe Californians are going to be most affected, as well as the legislature and the government, by the allowance of undocumented individuals to have the right and the privilege to drive in the state of California. I think the ramifications are going to be longstanding, and it's probably beneficial for the state of California. In other words, it's how to regulate something that may be called, in some people's eyes, illegal conduct, because you're not supposed to be in the state of California or the United States of America unless you have proper documentation. But what the state of California has said, I believe practically and prudently, said we want to regulate this. Even though it may be quasi-illegal, we want to make sure people who do not have the proper documentation for citizenship still have the proper protection, meaning insurance coverage. And the first step to insurance coverage is making sure undocumented immigrants may have the right to have a valid license through the Department of Motor Vehicles.
How's it going to work? They can go to the DMV, they've got to show proof of residency and also take a test, right?
That's correct. Just like any other licensee who wants to have the privilege to drive in the state of California, you'd have to go through the same testing, have the same passing marks, and then you're able eventually to be insured. And that's really the most important thing here, because there are many people who are left with liability concerns who are involved with accidents with people who may not be properly insured. And so the legislature has said the first prong is get proper licensing, then we can have proper insurance so people aren't out there holding the liability bag.
What do gun owners need to know with the new laws coming forward?
Nothing surprising here. California is getting strict and stricter as time goes on. It's very difficult in the state of California to really own a firearm. In my practice of criminal defense, when people are even under the investigation of a criminal conduct offense, well, there's a right that the legislature has put into place for the guns to be taken away from an individual before a finding of guilt. So we see that trend continuing here. We have modifications on single-shot weapons that are now being prohibited. They still have the same ramifications under the same guidelines as multi-shot, as we would call semi-automatic weapons as well. We also have the ability, interestingly enough, and probably prudently, to have concerned family members and concerned law enforcement officers now have the ability to petition the courts individually to say, we want to make sure certain people are restrained from owning firearms. And this is a reactive measure from the tragedies we've seen here lately with school shootings.
Sure. What should we know as far as technology goes, technology laws?
Well, you're going to see more and more regulation in this area. As we always see in the morning, there's always credit card hacks and databases that have been hacked by individuals who are professionals at starting credit card fraud. You're going to see more legislation targeting the internet and the ability for technological crimes to be pursued in the state of California and throughout the United States. We'll see both the state governments and federal governments acting. But in regards to technology, we also see specific things such as what we normally call revenge porn. And that is when individuals who are not actually engaging in pornographic activities, but they have selfies or things that reveal certain things that they don't want the general public to know. And now we have the ability for the legislature, meaning the district attorney's office and the city attorney's office, to prosecute people who proliferate these images without the owner or the individual's actual consent. So we're going to see a lot of cases coming into Superior Court here in that regard.
So if somebody sends a selfie to somebody else and then they post it, that person that posts it could face the ramifications.
They can and they will, and we've seen a couple of highly publicized cases here. There's also legislation which is also related to what we're just discussing, which are these internet sites that have, criminal records or mugshots of individuals who may have been arrested but never actually convicted. Well, they used to be able to charge a fee to remove that. Now that's illegal, and you'll start to see more legislation and more prosecutorial efforts to weed that out.
Real quickly, anything odd or strange as far as laws go, something that we might look at and think, well, that's kind of a bizarre law.
Things that you and I individually look at may be, something that falls into that category. I recall a month and a half ago taking a trip to San Francisco for a case, or a client's case there. And I remember being charged 20 cents for 2 plastic bags that I had received at the local Rite Aid. And I was appalled and a little disturbed by it. But, in my mind, that might be something that is not on the top of the list of things that should be addressed. In other people's minds, it really is. They are environmental concerns, trash disposal concerns, biodegradability concerns. So you can't really say a certain law may be, as we would say, ridiculous or something that we don't actually expect. There's always a concerned group that's affected by every law that's passed.
Attorney Vic Bajaj, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Happy New Year.
The same to you. Thank you.
All right, let's get it on.